Last year, on the 31st of December, I posted a video that had the exact same title as today's, and it discussed my thoughts on the state of Destiny at the time and why it ultimately led me to taking a break from the game. And since then, I have privated that video because my attitude has changed for the better, and I didn't really want what's probably my most negative video still up on the channel. Because it's true, for those of you who never got to see it, at the time, I was seriously fed up with Destiny and wasn't really vibing with it at all, which is rather ironic because right now, we're in arguably a more volatile time period than what was then episode Revenant, yet my attitude towards the game now is far more positive. And today I just wanted to provide a pseudo follow-up to that video and explain to you my thoughts on the current state of Destiny and the channel as a whole. A sort of year in review, as it were. So for starters, I want to reiterate and make it clear that I am feeling good about Destiny right now. I've just come off the back of a 21-day daily upload streak which started when Renegades came out, and there is absolutely no way I would have managed to pull that off if I wasn't feeling passionate. And thankfully, Renegades being as good as it is has massively helped with motivation. It's honestly been so relieving to see that people are really enjoying Renegades, self included of course. However, let's wind the clock back a little to early 2025, episode Heresy. Episode Heresy is when I made my return to creating content after taking a break in January. And one of the key points of self-discovery I made during my break is that I actually love making content, which I know sounds really strange, but sometimes, especially during Revenant, I had this weird sort of feeling where I wasn't entirely sure if I still enjoyed doing what I do, and that instead I was just on autopilot. And realizing that I indeed still love this was honestly really freeing, and about halfway through the break, all I could think about was coming home and getting stuck in again. So, when Heresy launched, it was full steam ahead, and by some miracle, it actually turned out to be a really solid season, and I still have very fond memories of grinding the Nether, Sundered Doctrine, Rite of the Nine, the chess puzzle, and so much more. At least in my opinion, Echoes and Revenant were pale in comparison to Heresy, and I'll even say that sometimes I miss it. The game, despite not really knowing where it was going, felt great to play during this time and really helped to bring back my passion, which is why it'll always hold a special place for me. As a result of the success of Heresy, the channel finally started to gain some momentum again, and I felt really good about my work. And then when the reveal trailer for the Edge of Fate came out, I was really quite excited. But of course, we all know what comes next. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the Edge of Fate time period, at least after the initial 3 weeks, was basically the closest Destiny has come to actually being dead. This update, while initially received with intrigue, quickly devolved into one of the worst times for the game purely because of the sheer amount of terrible systems and lack of meaningful content. And of course, the portal, which by the way, we're still feeling the effects of today. But to give Bungie some credit, a lot of the launch issues have been fixed by now, and the game is overall in a much better place. But unfortunately, the damage has already been done. So, what did I think of the Edge of Fate? Well, believe it or not, initially I was actually loving it. Videos on the channel were doing really well in those first 2 to 3 weeks, and it felt good. I genuinely think that a lot of people seriously gave Destiny a good shot again with Edge of Fate, and had it not been for the poor decisions and so on, they probably would have stuck around. Purely from an analytical perspective, despite Renegades being far and away the better expansion of the two, Edge of Fate still launched to a higher player count and garnered more community interest. And the less popular launch of Renegades is the unfortunate side effect of the erosion of trust that came shortly after Edge of Fate, leading to the dark times. Now, you might think that during this time period of lowest community sentiment and outright apathy towards the game, I would once again decide to step away, and that's kind of what happened, but not really. Around the time that the Ashen Iron Major update released, which again was pretty terribly received and overall wasn't anything special, I was actually spending a lot of time streaming on Twitch and actually ended up having a really great time there. And all I was doing was farming Reclaim over and over to grind from 500 power to 550 power, but the conversations I was having with chat about the state of the game, how we could improve it, and so on really reminded me why I continue to stick around, and that's because of the community. There is truly no community like Destiny's, and this time around being surrounded by people who also just wanted to see the game succeed really helped to keep me going. Because last year I was barely a streamer and was mostly alone in my feelings, so I'm talking directly to anyone who tuned in for the Ashen Iron streams now, I seriously appreciate you. From here, things slowly started to improve as Bungie were really taking the feedback to heart and implementing good changes to the power system, the portal, portal, the loot grind, and so on, and things were beginning to look up. And it's actually around this time, towards the tail end of Ash and Iron, that I released my biggest video yet, the portal feedback video, and the community response to it was genuinely amazing to see. So many people agreeing and resonating with my ideas, it felt like Bungie had to have seen it, which I hope they did, but I guess we'll never truly know. However, they have started to implement suggestions I made from that video, such as curated weapon rolls and the albeit slow introduction of raid and dungeon content into the portal. So as a whole, the 3 to 4 quote dead months of Edge of Fate were objectively a bad time for the game. Despite this though, I had chosen to move past the negativity and was still trying my utmost to provide a positive outlet for the game, because that's all I truly want, for the game to succeed, and succeed it did with the launch of Renegades. In all honesty, I knew Renegades was going to do well. It was just a feeling, but after seeing all the marketing material, the creator previews, and of course an actual bloody trailer for the dungeon, RIP to both normal and epic Desert Perpetual because neither of them got trailers, at least Equilibrium did, a month in advance, which was awesome, but to not get too sidetracked, Renegades was looking good. It had all of the previous fixes and adjustments to the power system, the portal, and so on right behind it, so at the very least it would avoid any controversy, and when it actually launched, people quickly realized that thank God we had a good DLC in our hands finally. It only took them since Heresy in February to do this. I've already sung Renegade's praises, but just to reiterate some of the key points, the portal was essentially entirely irrelevant since you didn't need to level or the campaign just gave you any levels you might need. The campaign was solid and fun and a lot shorter than from Edge of Fate, which I actually preferred. Lawless Frontier is hands down the best seasonal/expansion activity we've ever received, period. Grandmaster Nightfalls made their return. The Equilibrium dungeon is, in my opinion, easily an A-tier dungeon purely because of how awesome it is and also how quick it is to run, plus the loot is mostly solid too. And speaking of loot, the Praxic Blade is one of the best exotics of all time, the blasters are great, armor set bonuses are finally becoming relevant for build crafting, and shiny weapons with accelerated assault are now a thing that spice up the admittedly dry and uninteresting state of loot and tier 5s in general, but that's a topic for another day. The point is, Renegades was great, and the channel has done great as a result. I feel like I tried a bunch of new non-typical videos and they've been received pretty well. You guys really seem to like my guides and armor/weapon roll breakdowns, which I will 100% be continuing, so don't worry about that. Despite Renegades being as successful as it has been, there are still issues with the game though, namely the portal still being a thing and not quite how I would envision it, the lack of meaningful loot from so much of the game that isn't in the portal, like from older raids and dungeons, and so much more. Furthermore, even though Renegades is objectively a very good expansion, the lack of trust that the dark times in Edge of Fate and Ash and Iron created did unfortunately make it so the launch player count was lower than Edge of Fate, and overall there is still a lack of interest in Destiny from the wider gaming community or just older, more casual Destiny fans in general. Could a potential Destiny 3 fix this? In my opinion, absolutely. The idea of a Destiny 3 is a whole can of worms that I'm not terribly interested in getting into today, but what I will say is this. Objectively, Destiny 2's best days are behind us. It's going to be very hard or even impossible for Bungie to create an expansion or piece of content for Destiny 2 that reaches the highs of, say, Lightfall or the Final Shape in this current climate. However, a sequel like Destiny 3 would have a much better shot at reinvigorating the franchise as a whole. Do I think that's what should happen? Honestly, I have no idea. There are too many uncertainties surrounding either option, but whatever Bungie choose, I will certainly be there. Which neatly brings me onto my last point, me. What am I going to be doing in this uncertain future? Dear viewer, I want you to know that my mindset towards Destiny is this. No matter how bad things get, I now know that I have a community behind me who will support me through and through, and therefore my stance is that no matter what, I will be there making Destiny content and being involved with the Destiny community until the bitter end. Down with the ship, as it were. I will continue to be a part of this community for as long as I physically can, and nothing will change that. Not even the Edge of Fate or Ash and Iron could, and they were both rock bottom. So the only way is up, I hope. All of this is to say that even if Shadow and Order is bad and Bungie learn nothing from Ash and Iron, if Shattered Cycle and The Alchemist are both terrible, I will still be there doing my utmost to provide a positive and passionate outlet for the game. Because even though times haven't been great, through you, my community, and dear viewers, I have found who I want to be in this space. So let's hope 2026 is a good year for Destiny, no matter the form it takes. Thank you for watching and supporting throughout all of 2025, and I'll see you in 2026. Bye for now, dear viewer.